I'm honored to be moderating this panel here, and hopefully we're going to give you some good insights on AI and the fantastic ROI that we're going to get. So, of course, we're going to start off by introducing the panel. I'll let everybody do their own introduction. Bill?
You don't want to pitch Royce?
Everybody knows Royce Law.
Everybody knows Roger and the team. Okay, my name is Bill Eichen. I'm the managing director of Gimel Fund and also an investor in Pi Capital, which is here tonight. I think there's 3 of us, if you see some of the teams. As a institutional investor, I can say I know absolutely nothing because I've been a CEO 5 times. So I've always been on the receiving end of the money. But the reason I guess we're on this panel tonight is a lot of our companies are in the software as a service business using AI technology. And my background's in software and semiconductors, but I'm sitting not on the investor panel, I'm sitting with the other CEOs.
There we go. Hello? There we go. Perfect. Okay. So, hi everyone. I'm CEO and co-founder of Varl. And what Varl does is we have trained machines to watch millions of videos on YouTube and Instagram to help brands like Nike, L'Oreal, BMW find the best video reviews, unboxing videos, and how-to videos that people are posting from their smartphones for insights, lead gen, licensing, and content marketing. So if you think of where commerce is headed, e-commerce is headed, we believe that the future of commerce it will start with a video and end with a video. So this holiday season, there were over 300 million videos watched the day before Black Friday, mostly reviews and stuff. And so essentially, what Varl is doing is we want to be the operating system for video content marketing. And so we're based in San Francisco, have been around for about 3 years, and we're very AI focused. Thanks.
Hello, everyone. My name is Chris Maycumber. I'm the CEO of Who Knows. What we're doing is we're obviously an AI company as well. Our intent is to provide better professional data about individuals. And so we built a platform that essentially gathers data, gathers evidence from either public sources, data partners, intranets, email, browser activities, whatever source we want. And we derive insights about individuals, what they know, who they know, what they've worked on. Essentially, the use cases become interesting because you can build a better employee directory, you can build better employee profiles, hiring, and eventually, hopefully, we can kill LinkedIn because LinkedIn sucks in many ways, as many of us appreciate. So we spent years building the platform, and then we built services on top of that. We have an enterprise solution where we can roll out to a company like SAP and help them understand their own people. We have a global product where we've already indexed the web and have about 370 million professional profiles that we can use for recruiting use cases, B2B lead gen, and just an open dev platform as well. So eager to share some of our learnings, so hopefully you can avoid the same mistakes we did.
Okay, thank you very much. And again, so I am the Director of IP Strategy at Royce Law Firm. I'm a patent attorney by training, but I have had experience as a CEO and CTO and done all the types of Valley stuff in the last 25 years or so. I'm going to start off, we're going to try to tell you about ROI and AI. And so I'm going to first ask the panelists what they think are the best examples they've seen of getting really great ROI out of an AI system. Who wants to start?
Well, I have a story. We started the company about 3 years ago, and within like 6 months of starting the company, so we analyze video for video reviews, and so we had to start from scratch with our training data sets and everything. And we had a ransomware attack within 6 months of starting the company. And you can imagine if data is everything for your company, if your data gets stolen, you're dead. And the issue we had was we were using MongoDB, and MongoDB forgot to tell us that the default security settings were so and so, and we didn't realize that. And long story short, massive headache. Thankfully, someone had stored half of the data somewhere else, so we were able to recover. We did not pay for ransomware, but the point being is that the first thing I did after that was hire a company that does cybersecurity check on everything, on our systems, on our emails, and everything. And I tell you not, I kid you not, but if we had not had that half of that data stored somewhere, the training data sets and everything, the company would have been dead. So I would say that, for risk and security, or cybersecurity is a number one concern and huge for AI companies themselves. And it's a terrific use case for AI and ROI as well. I mean, there's no ROI for peace of mind and shutting down your company. So, yeah.
I'll answer second. I think I have a microphone that works, right? Robert, can you hear me? Okay, good. So I would tell you, how many people here come from the venture or investment community? Anybody? Okay, good. So one of the technologies that we wanted to create in AI was a way to not replace completely, but to augment the associates and junior partners in a venture fund. Those of you familiar with the business, they have to source the deals. They have to go to the general partners and try to build consensus before you get a check for $5 to $10 million. So we set out at Pi Capital to build a piece of software where you can upload your slide deck, upload your balance sheet, your cap table, and the computer is the investor. Now, the computer will say, gee, that credit score is 40 because the CEO is the CTO, they don't have a team, and the cap table is very unbalanced. So you get a 0 score, actually. If you're really greedy and you're the only employee, then you get a 0. And then we get that credit score, and then humans, like Sanjeev, who's in the audience, and myself, then we'll look at it before an investment is made or before it goes live on the site. So one of the things, we're not replacing the associates at big venture funds, but we're actually licensing to some of the bigger venture funds and also making 9 startups available to the accredited investors in the world. And it's a very sophisticated algorithm. It actually learns from its mistakes. And so that's one of the use cases. So
How long is the feedback time?
less than 20 minutes. Literally, when you upload your stuff, you get an email.
So what I meant in terms of learning.
Ah,
It learns from its mistakes.
right.
6 years later.
No. We've only had that company funded for about 2 years at this point. In the case of your startup, you never responded, so your account's still sitting there. But no, you're still alive. You have a good one that actually my partner's daughter plays with that software. Okay. And you're coming. But within, I would answer your question, counselor, I would tell you, like, within 2 to 4 weeks, the system will modify because it has to get a lot of data points before it knows what it's doing wrong.
Yeah, really quickly, and I'll try not to make this too much of a pitch for who knows, but that's the problem we know, so I'll describe that, is how many people work for corporations, like non-startup, non-VCs? Any SAP folks here? All right, so I bailed on the corporate environment 10 years ago because frankly, I always felt like that overlooked diamond in the rough where I didn't politically navigate the bureaucracy that well, but we all know those people that are the diamonds in the rough, right? The people that frankly get shit done, but don't know how to do PR for themselves and never get promoted or never get overlooked. Back in the 90s, it was, even the copy guy, the guy who could work the damn copier, and the printer was, the plotter guy was amazingly useful in the audience, more than most VPs. So what we wanted to do and what we found was when we rolled out to Intel, there were thousands of those people that were being overlooked, and being able to go through and train a model, identify the people that are activity based, that are the get shit done guys, as opposed to the guys who know how to manage up or promote themselves, was a key ROI for the company because they now know who they need to retain. And as we know, the talent wars are heating up. So again, something that humans couldn't do or wouldn't do, that was really easy for an AI model to do.
Thank you. So AI is now the new buzzword and is the big thing, and every company worth its salt has to have AI, otherwise the annual shareholding meeting won't be a success. But for large organizations, any type of change is really difficult. AI can be a ground-shaking change. So any of you have insights or suggestions regarding how large organizations should try to approach AI?
All right, I want to mix up the order.
Yeah.
So I'm an investor and advisor to the CEO at a company called OmniScience that's in Palo Alto. And the company has an AI engine, not machine learning, so we have to differentiate there. And it helps insurance underwriting companies, especially in the life insurance industry, make better decisions. It also eliminates some positions. So we've seen in the last 2 years, millions of dollars being spent by the largest corporations in the world, the biggest banks, the biggest Japanese insurance companies, et cetera, use our technology as an engine with their models, which is their intellectual property and an insurance underwriter, to make better decisions and outcomes. So that's an example where a really big company has to use our technology because they have thousands of employees that read insurance underwriting contracts and make bad decisions. And that one is proof because nobody would spend $10 million if it didn't work, I think.
I'll keep mixing it up. So in my experience, it's actually not terribly hard to get your foot in the door at enterprise. Like there's always going to be a data scientist or a product guy or someone who wants to kick the tires. What my experience has been is getting it from the initial trial to broad deployment throughout the company. That's where most startups fall on their face. And frankly, most corporations are just not positioned to bring that new tech out of the innovation lab space that they carve out this little budget for to an above the line item like this is now keep the lights on, like this has to be in the budget every year. And unfortunately, it's not a tech problem. It's a marketing, it's a sales problem. So for all the AI entrepreneurs out there, don't dismiss that. You know, I'm a product guy at heart. I always came in saying if the product's great, people will buy it. And I was roughly disillusioned over the course of my years, especially dealing with enterprise. It's good that this panel is called ROI because it's got to be business case focused. It's got to be bottom line, top line focused. You need a story that is not just a data scientist, but the CEO, the executives can tell their board on how it's changing the business.
Yeah, I mean, for me, being in the commerce world, we quickly get compared with any solution we provide with Amazon. So Amazon is, at the end of the day, is a data company. They've launched a shop, watch and buy shop. And so the tsunami of video is coming. So if I'm Target, if I'm Walmart, the question for you is, do you build from scratch or do you build? I mean, is there even enough talent to do this? And so really you have to work with companies like, companies that have a particular expertise. And so speaking to our customers, we work with big brands, and we're now starting a pilot with a retailer. And the first question that they ask is, can you scale? Can you do this for 10 million products? Can you analyze videos for 10 million products and millions of videos? Can you provide me videos for my entire Target shop or Target product category, for example? And so that's very important that, a year ago we weren't ready. In fact, I remember going to Walmart Labs, and right away, like just in my first conversation with their leadership, we knew that we weren't ready for that. So we sort of retreated, and now we're back, and now we can scale our infrastructure for big customers. So you have to be ready when you go after some of these big customers. And I agree with you. I think, it's hard. Massive scale deployments and getting the people and everything in place. It's tough for a startup.
Thank you. So, in my experience, a big part of AI and getting good returns from any type of machine learning system is the data, right? Quality data is king. One of the problems with data is that the entities that have lots of data are Google, Facebook, Amazon, and the Chinese government. right? What does a small company do? I think that in at least one case, you're going out and scraping. Can you talk about is there a data monopoly, or are there going to be issues in AI in that area?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something that we've always been concerned about from day one, because we analyze a lot of public video data. And so for us, I think, I don't know if you remember, there was a case where I think it was a photo, it was one of the Yahoo companies where they had scraped data from some IBM database, and there was a big lawsuit. I just blanked out on the name of the company. But so we're very mindful of where we get the data from. We always ask for permission from our sources that they're getting it it's legit, and it's not being stolen from different sources. So we collect data from multiple sources, and we have to make sure that our data is ethical. So we have our own methods where we check and cross-check on that.
But you haven't found that there's a lack of data is really limiting you, or is it a limiting factor?
No, I think there's plenty of data. I mean,
Okay,
there's so many companies that have scraped stuff here and there. I think the question is, it's always like, ethical diamonds. Where are you sourcing the diamond, and is it legit, and have they paid the workers? I think it's something similar even for data. Is where's the data coming from? Is it ethically sourced, if you will? And those are some very fundamental questions we're asking. And now with GDPR laws and everything, we are also making sure that our platform is GDPR compliant, meaning if someone says, hey, I want my email address to be taken off your database for whatever reason, we have the on and off switch built into our platform so we can take the data off. So, yeah.
It obviously depends on your product. For those of you that are trying to build AI companies that need proprietary data sets, private data sets, you go into a company and say, give me your supply chain information or your LDAP database. You can do it, you can sell. The problem is with your sales model is they're taking a leap of faith. You're this pissant little startup coming in saying, give me all your supply chain data, and you can have the best marketing materials in the world, but that's still a massive procurement, legal, you've just added on like 3 different departments that you have to get into. And then they have to take a leap of faith, wait for you to build your model, and then you show them something cool. It's tough. The flip side, what I've seen the really good AI companies do is they balance it, right? They grab a public data set, whatever they can do to wet the whistle, to prove some of the value, give them a taste and say, hey, look, here's one graph about the people at your company. Here's 15 more that we've derived insights. Would you like to see them? Sign here. So you can look at your data. It doesn't have to be black or white. You can actually stage it, tier it in quality, whatnot, whatever is going to facilitate your sales process. Because at the end of the day, what Nirvana is. Nirvana is like full-blown access to all the data you need. But there's a sales journey, a customer journey to get them there.
In some of the startup companies, they have zero data. They start the first day scraping, or as we say affectionately, indexing. Right. I mean, can you go on to Tinder and steal more than 100 profiles? You just make 100 fake accounts, then you have 10,000. That's how people do it today. You have to start with a model, but I found in every artificial intelligence company at Pi Capital or any of the entities, the customer is going to give you their model. In the insurance underwriting company, hey, Mr. Life company, MetLife, give us your intellectual property and models. We'll sign an NDA. We're not going to steal your information, but we'll give you back something much more valuable. So the real artificial intelligence is the one where data in is good, data out is good. And that's with every startup. Even one that you start in your garage, your customer will give you the data. Don't try to scrape it unless you're a B2C. Then you have no other choice.
So, Chris, what you were talking about brought another question to my mind is, have you had the experience where you have a bunch of different customers and you're going to train your system using one customer's supply chain data, and now you have an improved system? Have you run into situations where the customer says, you can train with our data, but you can't use a system that you've trained now with Joe competitor? Yeah. Or is that come up a lot or a little bit?
It is not, and usually we set expectations early on that the data is yours, the model's ours. You know, and again, it's good to build your contracts that way. You know, make sure you know what you want to own, what you want to keep proprietary. And frankly, I've found most customers, I don't know about you, but they don't care. Again, it's about the ROI. They're not in it to buy your IP. They're in it to improve the business. So that's usually acceptable.
Yeah, I would just add that in fact they like us to also bring in the competitor data as well into the mix, and so yeah, so I don't think I've had issues with that. No.
Okay, so moving on, one of the issues in AI and the use of AI is the ability of bias to come in that results from the initial data. There have been, of course, many great cases where it was very unexpected, and my favorite one is from very early AI days when they were looking at trying to identify tanks for DARPA, and to tell a Russian tank from an American tank, and the system learned really quickly. It was, you know, almost 100% at it. And of course, Russian tanks are fuzzy pictures, and U.S. tanks are nice crystal clear pictures, and that's what the AI system learned, is how to tell the difference between the two. So can you talk a little bit about whether you've had experiences where you've found biases that were unexpected, or where you've had to take steps to avoid it, or how you worry about this?
So yeah, so for us, what we do is we match millions of videos to the entire L'Oreal product catalog by SKU, category, brand, and competitor, and then we actually go inside the video and we analyze the video for demographic, diversity, brand safety, product safety, and all of that. And we had a recent example where we actually analyzed 15,000 videos and for a customer, and they were interested in understanding all the data by the top 6 ethnicities in here in the United States. And we discovered that in our when we ran our algos, we found that there were 2 ethnicities that were entirely missing on the data. And honestly, it really raised a question whether it was a bias on our part in the algorithm, or was it actually real data? And it turned out it was actually a genuine problem where the customer had actually missed out on creating video content from these 2 ethnicities, and it's actually their top big target markets, Hispanic and Asian populations, right? And so this is, for us, it's a question that's answered by our own reports as well. So we're constantly testing whether there's bias. And in my opinion, bias is human introduced, meaning it's how you train the data to what it's looking for. So ultimately, it's humans who create bias, not the algorithm, in my opinion. And I truly believe that, you know, we currently analyze videos in English, but shortly we're adding new languages. And I am super happy with, I have a very diverse team. We have about 8 nationalities, 25 people speaking 25 languages on the team. And I cannot tell you how important that is to have diversity on the team as well, and how that translates into bias in your products as well. And so as we analyze new languages, and this has happened even with current languages, English as well, sometimes there's other language, and having other people on the team that speak different languages, come from other cultures, is actually very helpful as well, because we do our own, my team also watches a lot of videos to look for bias. And also, we have automated the process now where every couple of weeks, we actually send some of our data post-analysis back to humans to actually have a quick look and score it for bias. So we have already built that loop into our system now, because we absolutely have to be aware in digital marketing about biases.
I'll go second this time. Bias, is weird, because when you say bias, the first thing people think is ethnicity, age, gender. At Pi Capital, we have kind of 3 filters. One is people who are not telling the truth, and we want to filter them out. You can call them non-truth tellers, I guess. People that are really greedy, like if the CEO has 9 million shares and the CTO has 500,000 shares, your stock drops to 0. unless you're the CEO that funded it with 10 million and you're paying the CTO to work with you, but that's not typically the case. So we don't have we don't look up the last name and decide they're part of this ethnicity, but everything is, we don't even see your race, creed, or color. Your LinkedIn profile is used for a criminal background check maybe, but it's not looking at who you are. But the bias is unfairness and greed. Those are two of the biggest elements, and the computer handles that. It knows how to read a cap table and go, oops, they're not being fair, there's something wrong here. I don't even care what they make. I don't even care what their valuation is. Something's wrong. And then it'll send you what's fair, and then you decide with the computer whether you want the money or not. So that's a different kind of bias that we use, if that makes sense. I mean, it's a very complicated model, but it's looking at behaviors as opposed to ethnicities.
Yeah. So one of the examples that reminds me of that is putting ads for engineers on Facebook. If a company optimizes to minimize the cost and the return of their ads, it turns out men are cheaper than women. So all their engineer ads get only shown to men because of a financial goal, and they've introduced a bias that they have no idea that it may even exist until they, So that's
Facebook robbed us, just so you know. Facebook, we wasted so much money using their service. We found out that the direct mail and the people that were in the business helped us more.
Really?
And yeah, because you can target with all their little pointer technologies. Yeah. It didn't work for us. I know it works for somebody, or their stock wouldn't be worth that, but small company had a problem.
Okay. So as the AI industry is maturing, do you see it becoming more commoditized in the sense that there's going to be companies that build basic tools that help larger enterprises can just purchase off the shelf, like I buy a spreadsheet right now, or
Here.
sorry.
Counselor, louder.
Okay, so seeing as we know that AI is going to develop into a huge industry now, my question is, do you see it becoming more of a service industry where there are companies that provide tools, and then larger enterprises come along and say, hey, we need this, this, and this. We can buy it just like we buy Adobe and Word and AWS.
I can try to start because I don't have much to say on this. I'm not an expert in that area, but I know what it's like to have a product versus technology. So a lot of the companies we work with, it's not a shrink wrap thing that you can just plug in your insurance underwriting or plug into Pi Capital and it works. I think we're at least 5 to 10 years away from buying a service that you can download unless it's a perfect product that fits in my PC in 1990 that's called PowerPoint. But I think the industry should go that way. Personally, I'm a product person, having learned from some of the toughest people in the industry, including Steve Jobs. The product is everything. So if you're building an AI company, have something that solves a problem that people can understand. Don't tell them how many billions of operations you can do per second, because nobody cares about that. So that's been my personal experience.
Yeah, I will say that there is currently a growth in AI infrastructure companies, if you will. So for example, now you can buy ethical training data sets from companies that just build that, for example, and ramp up very quickly. There's a lot of tools that Amazon and NVIDIA and Google Cloud are providing as well to automate some of the early AI features. So that's also happening. But I think that when it comes to actually adapting that into a context, that's really where I think things get harder, because you need the domain expertise and you need to contextualize that data in a use case. So I think at the moment, yes, we're beginning to see a lot of infrastructure being automated or getting commoditized, but it's still a long way. Yeah.
Yeah, It's a very contextualized question, right? Like, as entrepreneurs, whoever's in the audience, you should be constantly looking for what you can beg, borrow, steal versus like build from scratch, right? As long as it's not core, not different, not something you're trying to differentiate on, that's what you need your PhDs, your data scientists to focus on. So, you know, no one does their own visualization anymore. Why would you do that when you use Looker or any other visualization tool? But hell, if I'm ever going to trust a service to do my core model that my whole business model is based off of. But everything surrounding it, hell yeah, you know, I'll outsource whatever I can.
One of the things I think that we probably all can agree on is that AI is going to have some impact on the workforce. And that could open up a whole series of possible questions phrased in positive ways and in negative ways, and who knows. So I'm going to try this one here. AI is going to have a lot of positive impacts on different methods of business and people. Can you guys give some positive examples of where you think AI is going to really benefit?
I have a couple. I was the general manager of Texas Instrument for all automotive. And the most important invention we had was making sure that if a drunk driver was coming at you, that you can avoid an accident. This is over 10 years ago. 12 years ago, a little company called Tesla came to us and had this crazy idea. But collision avoidance actually will save your life today. The whether or not you want to give up the control of your car, I can tell you already have. The airbags deploy, you can't see anything. But the collision avoidance technology saves lives. And I know even a 25-year-old cannot avoid oncoming drunk driver if it happens at the last second. That's a perfect example of where AI is already there. Some of the other areas, I'll tell you, we looked at a company recently, 2 weeks ago, an Israeli company using Israeli technology, which is high security. And they all came from the military and from the airport where they screen potential problem passengers. They were using this for interviewing American Airlines baggage handlers for employment. So imagine you're a baggage handler, you want to apply to American Airlines as a baggage handler. Instead of having a face-to-face interview, you open up your computer or your phone. You're talking to a robot, which seems very depersonalized. But that robot will make some decisions of whether you're worth interviewing face-to-face or not, as opposed to having, you know, some youngster, let's say, in the company doing the first line of recruiting, which, you know, we've all been there before. So that kind of, those are the two ends of the spectrum. I think it makes sense to allow AI to take over. Don't try to resist it.
Ajay?
I'll say that in commerce, a brand like L'Oreal has over 20 million videos on YouTube. And this is just one platform. And globally, there's 35 platforms where content is being produced. And there's no humanly possible way ever to analyze 20 million videos from a marketing point of view. So I think these are areas where only machines can help us do our job better and find relevant content for whatever the use case is. And so I believe that, I mean, these are examples where, you know, where there's massive amounts of data and complexity with data is where, things are happening and where AI is useful.
Yeah, I think what most people assume is that AI is going to replace like all decision making or decision making to a certain complexity level. And obviously, I agree with them. I think it's a wrong way to think about it. Like, humans suck at a lot of things. Like, let's nail those first. Like, like I said, I don't trust me to make a decision split second in my car. For us, like, we were very much in the talent acquisition space. Like, trusting a human to go through thousands of applicants and give each one, you know, the right amount of time to fairly judge them is impossible. Like, we're not robots. But on the flip side, when you look further down the funnel, there's no way in hell I'm ever going to trust an AI to do the final decision on which of the shortlist candidates to hire. I don't think AI will ever get there because there's just too much of a human component. So, you know, be smart. You know, there's lots of dumb problems out there that humans are still banging their heads against the wall against. Like, fix those first.
I've actually seen companies where the goal was to use AI to eliminate bias. In other words, it would look at job postings or performance reviews, and it would learn, okay, this reviewer tends to have this bias. And they had contracts with the military and things like that, because the military has an issue like so-and-so always downgrades a certain type of person, right? And so they can go through and automatically detect human biases where it would be really difficult to do that across the board otherwise. So the next thing that I'm gonna ask about is a little bit related to this, and it deals now with privacy. So I spent most of my day on lectures on the CCPA, which is the California Consumer Privacy Act, which gives Californians a lot more power about what people do with their data. Do you think that AI is going to have, from a general point of view, an impact on privacy, and what both positive and negative impacts do you think there might be?
So privacy, forget it. It's too late. I mean, you put my name in, you can see properties I own, you can read my whole history from the beginning. That's like the Borg when you talk about Microsoft. So I think it's too late, and I appreciate the government's role in trying to stop Google or Facebook, but honestly, they're here to stay. And when you enter into the legal agreement, when you use their software, you know what you're giving. That's my personal feeling, and I know my business partners feel the same. Having said that, there's stuff you don't want there, and Google will take it down. I had a friend that had some ugly things happen in the past, and he told Google, online, this is me, take it down. And even though it was in the public sector, they took it down. So I think it's a balance, but quite frankly, all the people that are running around saying my privacy is being violated, it's too late. I mean, you can cry about reality, but you have to accept it. It's like the people that never saw a car before Henry Ford. They wanted to ride a horse down University Ave in Palo Alto. Well, guess what? Things changed. So that's a personal opinion, and also it's a reality in my opinion. But I appreciate people trying to fight for it. I don't know how it's going to be enforceable. And as long as kids keep posting stuff on Instagram, they're never going to be able to run for the president of the United States. So
I had the experience last summer of taking my 6-year-old to Disneyland, and they made sure her name was spelled right and then took a picture of her. And I'm walking out of that saying, wait, could I have objected to that picture? Because, that's there, right, forever.
Want to go to Disneyland, you can. Have you ever seen an attorney go into a dentist and modify the agreement? Same thing, right? Yeah. Disney wants your daughter's name.
Yeah, well, Aetna, she was an Aetna patient, so a lot of people have her name already. So she was 6 months old at that point. Ajay, do you have some?
My comment is that just by default, being on social media, you're public. You're public. And so I think the big question now is, in fact, NPR was, as I was driving here, NPR was doing a story about harassment on YouTube, where one YouTuber was harassing another YouTuber. And I think that's an interesting context of what does privacy mean there. Do you take down someone's account? Do you hide that person? I think these are some real challenges, and I don't know what the answer is. But anything that has to do with violence or graphic stuff, I think there are legit concerns, and I don't know what the right answer is, but they'll have to be answered.
Yeah, I agree. Privacy's the first tier of privacy is dead. They're on your lawn, right? They know a lot of stuff about you. They know what colors you like. They know your professional information. Ideally, they're not inside your house yet. They don't know your social security number. They don't know how many. Well, they probably do know how many kids you have. But
they're already listening to everything that gets said in the kitchen, right?
You're listening to your
but
in fact, Google knows we're here. Right?
Well, and there's also a difference, especially for the data people in the room, there's a difference between a company or two having that data and having a marketplace for that data, right? You go to Intellius, you go to Spock, there's every credit card application you've ever filled out and everywhere you've lived, and that data is just available for pennies, less than pennies, versus social security numbers, stuff like that. So that's I'm perfectly fine, like people sharing bowel movements on Twitter, like, privacy's dead. But once they get further, that's where that's where I think if governments are going to try and do anything, they should be working on the next firewall, not the one that's already broken.
I want to ask a risky question here, and I'm going to keep it short so that you can expand on it. Do you think there is an AI arms race?
Yes, I do believe that China is way ahead of, and there is an arms race going between China and the rest of the world, and it's in many different areas. But from what I know, we came out of UC Berkeley, and many of our faculty are advising and also have an insider view on what's happening with universities in China and more. And from what we understand, China is creating 20 times more AI engineers, if you will, than United States. In the long term, I mean, some of the faculty that I've spoken to, they're saying China is already 5 years ahead of United States when it comes to AI. So I believe that, and so I think this will catch up with us in 15 years, 20 years. When China is really, really way ahead. And I think this is a system problem here with what we have in the United States. It really gets down to school, math, science, our priorities as a system. So I think there is.
Maybe China can build the platform that we all use in 5 years. Instead of building ourselves. Yeah, everything's an arms race. We're an arms race, whether it's your business model, whether it's your product space, whether it's the new tech stack, who's going to win. The good news is we most often don't have any loyalty. We're mercenaries to whatever the best solution is. So if they win in the next 5 years, maybe it's quantum computing 10 years from now that changes the game and we all switch over to that. But yeah, you got to get moving because when was your thesis 40 years ago on AI?
That's what I was saying. Yeah, my MIT master's thesis it's entitled AI for Speech Recognition. We just didn't have the microprocessor power to use it, but we knew the algorithms. Yeah.
But yeah, I think what we're seeing, obviously, in the last probably half decade in particular, is we finally have reached a point where we have practical AI. It's no longer it's in business models. It's actually solving problems, and now everything's up for grabs.
When you use arms race, it makes people think East versus West, I think, or.
Well, I left it open that because
I know.
Because it could be Amazon versus.
Right. No, I know. Asked and answered. Yes, but the way I look at it is, I think the best talent in the world, 20-mile radius of this facility, maybe a little larger. I don't want to say Silicon Valley is the only place in the world where you can have breakthroughs, but I don't worry about anybody anywhere in the world. And we want to have Q&A, so I'm going to stop speaking.
I was waiting for that one. Okay, so to wrap up before we do the question and answer, could each of you give me a prediction? This is where we get to record this and show it back in 20 years and laugh, right? Of what you would like to see, like in your dreams, of what some AI thing might do. And as a patent attorney, I'll be sure to write down all the. No, yeah, go ahead.
My prior art would be my master's thesis from 40 years ago. That's my answer. I don't know where it's going, but more compute power, more good grads with PhDs in mathematics and data science. Who knows what do you want the computer to do?
I've been personally affected by cancer, and I think it's still an unsolved problem in many areas. And if AI can speed that up, disease and a solution, I think that'll be great.
Yeah, my egalitarian self would be, something in healthcare, drug development, faster drug development. My lizard brain would be like, I just want something to schedule my calendar. Would be nice. There's been about 50 startups that have tried. They've all failed. So someone just figure it out so I don't have to.
Thank you. Hey, Chris, you mentioned that AI has changed a lot in the last 5 years. Can you elaborate on what's the driver behind that and what does it mean going forward?
Yeah, I think when I say change, I'm usually more focused on the market and the business as opposed to the technology. There's definitely other people that can talk to that. You know, we started the company 6 years ago. One thing that's still true is every deck you see has AI in it.
That's to confuse us.
That's to confuse us. You have to have AI, IoT, or drones, one of the three, otherwise, or blockchain, otherwise you don't get funded. What's really different nowadays is the enterprise environment. Like there are practical results, like real diary case studies that you can go that you're no longer trying to educate the market on the value of this by yourself because you have some new model. There are other people, you're going in and saying, okay, great, we believe, now let's just talk about the actual ROI. And so it's 10 times easier, 100 times easier for AI startups to actually sell today than it was, 5 years ago.
I just want to add to that the cost of GPU and is really falling down. And to be honest, like my startup could not have existed 5 years ago or 6 years ago. I think now it is possible to do video computing on a scale with billions of videos and images and all that. It's all about timing, and I think that it's possible now.
Thank you. I just want to ask that with so many AI startups and new technologies, do you think that people have thought through maybe the long-term impact on humans of this technology before they actually start developing or otherwise?
No
Can
way.
you repeat the question, Counselor?
So the question was about what kind of impact AI might have on humanity. And I'm actually going to answer a little bit of this, okay? There was the Luddites, and there was the smashing of sewing machines, and there was the fear that teller machines would put every bank teller out of work, and that robots would get every factory worker gone. And actually what happened is that the factory worker's job got better, and the tellers, there's more tellers now. But I think AI is the one technology that actually, because it's so different, and I think that AI has a potential for exponential growth. In other words, the better you get at it, the more it's going to do, and there's a feedback effect. And so I think that AI actually is the first time we've seen a technology where it could actually advance. I'm not going to go into the Zuckerberg versus Tesla, Elon Musk debate there, but that's a real debate that people should definitely be having, but I don't see how to stop it.
I mean, I had a fight with an IVR system yesterday at the bank. We have an incoming wire transfer from overseas. We didn't have the SWIFT number. We looked at the bank's homepage. There was no SWIFT number. Those of you who know, ABA is only for US, right? So I waited on hold for about half an hour, which is typical. But I tried to tell the IVR why I was calling, and it kept sending me to the wrong department, and then those people said, I don't know. The answer is, as you've said accurately, solve the simple problems, make people's lives better, try to cure cancer if you can, or any of the other things. But all AI is 2 letters that you have to have on your slide deck to make everybody read your slide deck. It really hasn't changed much. I posted on LinkedIn my master's thesis and said the same words, and that was in 1984. So anyway, that's kind of my long-winded answer. But I don't know if you have a better example.
No, just to get a bit philosophical, I think, with the explosion of the internet, social media, we dealt with, an exponential explosion of complexity, right? Like, even though we have more data, more content, we're less connected in many ways than before, and that's, massive unintended consequences. I think to speak to a more positive point, AI is something where it's trying to simplify things. It's a natural follow-up to that type of explosion of data and complexity in that I'm going to take that and try and simplify it. to make your life better. What we don't know is, okay, what's the unintended consequences of that? Do we all get stupider because we are leaving people up to make decisions and we don't need college degrees anymore or whatever? But we don't know. But we got to keep playing with cool stuff, so we're just going to keep trying.
Thank you. So in terms of, so you all kind of discussed about products and technologies that sort of has enabled AI like till date. In the last 5 years, a lot of things have changed. So what do you all see as in the next 5 in terms of technology or products that could make AI much better? I mean, like 5G is coming out. I'm assuming that's going to create more AI and better AI, I guess. What all you see is the next things coming out?
I think the technology is already here. Honestly, the algorithms I created in '84 are being used by Google, and no one's paying royalties for them. The math is just the same. I think if you make computers faster semiconductors, more efficient software, not spaghetti code. 5G is just a communication channel. All the math has been there for thousands of years. People just keep writing new theses and tweaking it for different use cases. So that's my personal opinion, and I've seen a lot of breakthroughs. I saw people break the laws of Newtonian physics, but I don't think that there's that much new algorithms out there.
I think it's there's obviously stuff that's on the far horizon, like quantum computing, what they're going to be able to do to break down complex problems. And I'm not nearly an expert on that, but that's going to be, even photon-based transmission speeds. As you start looking at computers, there's some crazy stuff there. But frankly, the biggest thing that's helped us the most over the last couple of years is Kubernetes. Just being able to flexibly spin up, spin down without burning through having 20 servers up all the time on AWS. That was huge, and that's basically a DevOps thing that has affected us the most. So, but yeah, should be exciting to see what happens.
So you talked about the talent within a 20-mile radius of here. That's a tremendously educated and wealthy population. And I'm wondering what you think about the impact, really what I'm asking is the ROI to who of AI. So is AI going to increase the education gap, increase the opportunity gap, and increase the wealth gap? Because the less educated, less wealthy people aren't going to be able to understand and take advantage of it?
That's a very good question, especially since you're local, I assume. Are you a local? Are you?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm local.
Right. So
I'm educated. I'm wealthy.
I tell you what I learned from my partner's 7-year-old, who doesn't know the difference between a square root and a tangent and a cosine. They want to learn technology because it's cool, it's fun. I think any job that's ever eliminated gets replaced. The next generation gets better. Now the question is, do you want to send your kid to college today for $200,000 a year? Those economics are insane. And literally, if I was graduating from high school now, I would just start writing HTML and this stuff. I wouldn't even bother to spend 4 years because that ROI is not good. I had interest rates of 18% when I got my master's. Can you imagine today, a kid coming out of school? Now they have 4%, but it's on a larger number. The gap will continue, but I don't look at it as the educated versus uneducated. I think one of the biggest accomplishments in my career was working with a technician that didn't have an engineering degree that created one of the most powerful products in the world. He didn't need a degree. He was self-taught, highly intelligent. His family couldn't pay for him to go to college. And he was better than any engineer in that department. And actually, we put his name on the product because he did all the work, mostly. So, the difficulty that we create today, I think, is too much technology and chasing too few good startups. There's billions in a 5-mile radius of this building. And I'm not just talking about Tesla next door and the guy who's the CEO, right? But he did get a $500 option price. See? He beat the astronomical. I don't think it's going to create a gap. I think every kid coming out of school, race, creed, color, orientation, they all have the same opportunity now. And I'm seeing people that solve problems in Africa for their city to create desalination out of paper cups. And I'm not kidding you. That guy's is a senior engineer at Google in Mountain View. So I think the brilliance is all over the world, but I think this is a good place to come to have some of the biggest impact.
I would say that who has access to learn more about AI will definitely have an impact. Here in Silicon Valley, we have access to good schools, we have access to AI or learn about AI, and hence we're able to get jobs in AI. But if you look at Middle America, or I just read a case study where in Germany, for 3 years they retooled and retrained all the coal miners to start thinking about data and jobs in data science and more. And it's how the system is set up, right? I mean, in Germany, they paid a stipend for those 3 years to those families for them to do that, make that transition happen. And so I think in U.S. being very capitalistic, I think the question is, how is the system set up? Is it set up for only few to have access to certain things? And look at the inequality we have here. And I think about it every day. And I think who has access to what is very critical to our society, and I think we really need to think about that and how we position ourselves.
I think there's first order impact of people actually participating, the educated side of things, but we can't dismiss, like we all want to help impact the world. AI technology has had massive impact, obviously, on third world poorer countries. So if our products, if our help gives them access to water, or you look at what happened where India skipped over landlines and just went directly to cell phone, and how that changed rural farmers' lives and rural retailers. That was technology. That was something that we can help with.
All right, well, let's give it up for the panel.